Hey guys, this is Mrs. Keith, and we're going to do notes today over the some triangle theorems, the triangle sum theorem, the exterior angles theorem, and the base angles theorem. So we're going to start with the triangle sum theorem, which I'm pretty sure we all know pretty well by now. Seems like we've done some problems that already covered this, but basically what it says is the sum of the measures of the angles in a triangle is going to be 180 degrees. So if I were to label this with endpoints A, B, and C, I know that the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B plus the measure of angle C should equal 180 degrees. If I'm asked to solve for x, I'm just going to plug in each of those angles the way they labeled them for me. So angle A is 3x plus 5. I'm going to add angle B, which is 2x minus 4, plus angle C, which is 12x plus 9. And that should equal 180. And then to simplify, so combine like terms, that gives me 17x. When I combine 5, the negative 4, and then 9, that gives me 10. Now I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides, and I get 17x equals 170, and then divide by 17, and I get that x equals 10. So we solved for x. You can always check your work, plug it back in. So the measure of angle A, if I plug that in, I would do 3 times 10 plus 5, which would be 30 plus 5, or 35 degrees. To get the measure of angle B, I'm going to plug in that 10, so I get 2 times 10 minus 4. So 20 minus 4 equals 16. And then the measure of angle C is 12 times 10 plus 9, so 129. Which this is definitely not drawn to scale, but whenever you add these together, you should see that you get 180. All right, let's move on. All right, the next theorem is the exterior angle theorem. So I think it's important, first of all, for us to know what the exterior angle is. An exterior angle has to form a linear pair with an interior angle. So this angle 4 right here is an exterior angle. So it says here, name the interior angles, and that should be pretty obvious. So that's the ones that are inside. So angle 1, angle 2, and angle 3 are interior angles. The exterior angle is angle 4. All right, it asks me, what is the relationship between angle 1, 2, and 3? Well, those angles, their sum is 180 degrees. We learned that from the last theorem we just talked about. So the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2, plus the measure of angle 3 should equal 180 degrees. What is the relationship between 3 and 4? Well, those two angles right there form a linear pair, and we know that a linear pair are supplementary. So the measure of angle 3, let's see. Basically, again, their sum is 180. And that's because they're a linear pair. So we can write the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4 equals 180 degrees. So it wants us to know how do angle 1 and 2 relate to angle 4. So I'm going to use the transitive property. Basically, I know that both of these equal 180. That tells me that I can use a transitive property to show that measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3 equals the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4. And then if you use the subtraction property, you can subtract out angle 3 from both of those sides, and you will get that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 4. So that's how the measure of angle 1 and 2 relate to 4. So basically these two, we call these remote interior angles. They will always equal that exterior angle when you add them together. So add those two angles together and it will equal that the exterior angle there. Okay, I just realized I basically just did that proof when I explained that, but let's actually do the proof. So using the picture above, it says that we've been given that we've got triangle ABC. So I'm just going to write triangle ABC is given to us, given in the picture. So the first step I know is that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3, that equals 180 degrees. And that's just my triangle sum theorem. Okay, and then we also know that the measure of angle 3 plus the measure, well, actually, before I say that, sorry. I know that angle 3 and angle 4 are supplementary. And that's because of the definition of linear pair. I know that they're a linear pair by looking at the picture up there. I guess I should probably actually write that out. Okay, so since we know that they're supplementary, then we know that when you add them together, they add up to be 180. That's the definition of supplementary. So our reason is definition of supplementary. Okay, so then I want you to notice again that those three angles add up to be 180, and then these two angles add up to be 180. So next we can say, using the transitive property, that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3 equals the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4 by the transitive property. All right, and then we can subtract out that measure of angle 3 from both sides. So the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 4, and that's using subtraction. Property of equality. And that is what we are trying to prove, so we've accomplished that. All right, our last theorem is the base angle theorem. And basically what I want you to notice here is that we have an isosceles triangle. And I know it's isosceles because we have a minimum of two sides that are congruent to each other. So the angles that are across from those congruent sides, they have to be equal to each other as well. And we call those two angles the base angles. The angle that's at the top, or the angle that's not across from the two congruent sides, that's called the vertex angle. So, I mean, you could have a picture that looks like this, where these are your two congruent sides, which would make these our congruent angles, and this would be our vertex angle here, and these would be your base angles. So your picture may not be just, where the base angles are sitting on the ground like this. They could be in any other direction. Just know the vertex angle is the one that's not across from the congruent sides. Okay, so the base angle theorem basically says that if you have a triangle and you know that you have two sides that are equal to each other, that means the angles that are across from them are going to be equal to each other. So the actual theorem says if two sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles across from them are congruent. And remember, those angles that are across from them are called the base angles. The converse of that says that if you've got a triangle where the base angles are congruent, that means that the two legs that are across from those base angles are going to be congruent. So it's just the opposite. All right, so let's do an example, or look at an example here. This next example is asking us to solve for x and y. I can easily solve for x using our triangle sum theorem. I know that x plus 68 plus 68 equals 180. So when I add 68 and 68, I get 136. And then I subtract 136 from both sides and I get 44. So x equals 44 degrees. That does not look very much like a 44. There we go. All right, so we've got x solved for. Now then, the other thing I notice is that these angles are equal to each other. That means that the sides that are across from those angles have to be equal to each other. So I can set up an equation, 35 equals 5y plus 5, and then solve from there. So subtract 5 from both sides, and then divide by 5, and I get y equals 6. And so we have now solved for x and y. All right, that's it for these notes. We do have an in-class practice after that, so I think let me work a couple of those. Okay, looking at the in-class practice, I noticed from this picture that all three sides are equal. So if all three sides are equal, all three angles are also equal. The angles across from those congruent sides will be equal. I also know that the angles inside of a triangle have to add up to be 180. So if they're all equal, I'm going to do 180 divided by 3, and I know that each of those angles are going to be 60 degrees. So that means that 4x plus 12 equals 60 degrees. Or you can actually set up an equation and do 4x plus 12 plus 4x plus 12 plus 4x plus 12, because they're all equal, will equal 180. Or you can set up an equation 3 times 4x plus 12 equals 180. You have a lot of different options. I'm going to use this one up at the top here. So we'll get 4x equals, when I subtract 12 from 60, I get 48. And then I'm going to divide by 4 and I get 12. So x equals 12 here. All right, on the next one, again, those three angles have to add up to be 180. So I'm going to set up an equation, 7x minus 1 plus 7x plus 8 plus 5x plus 2 equals 180. Combine like terms, so all of these x's will combine to be 19x. And then when I combine the numbers, negative 1 plus 8 plus 2, I get 9. Subtract 9 from both sides, I get 171. And when I divide by 19, I get x equals 9. On the next one, again, triangle sum theorem. So those three angles have to add up to be 180. By the way, if you've got if you've got a right angle, then we know these two have to be complementary, so they have to add up to be 90 degrees, so all three. So I'm going to stop right there, just set that equal to 90. But I could have also just said plus 90 equals 180, and I would have ended up there anyway. I'll just work it that way. So here we've got 7x plus 96 equals 180. Oops. And then subtract 96 from both sides, so I get 7x equals 84. And then divide by 7, and I get 12. Okay, on the next one, we're going to use the exterior angle theorem. I know that this 120 is an exterior angle because it forms a linear pair with this interior angle. So that 120 will equal these two remote interior angles added together. So 2x plus 3x will equal 120. If I add those together, I get 5x equals 120. So x is going to equal 24. And you can plug it in to verify. So if x is 24, this would be 48. And 3 times 24 will be 72. And when you add 72 plus 48, you get 120. You know, because these are a linear pair, this is going to be 60 because those two have to add up to 180. And then you should also notice then that the 60 plus the 48 plus the 72 has to equal 180. So there are some ways to check your answer to make sure it's right. All right, on the next one, again, this is an exterior angle because it forms a linear pair with that interior angle right there. So these two remote interior angles will add up to equal that exterior angle. So that's the equation I'm going to set up. So 3x plus 6 equals 126. Subtract 6 and then divide by 3. I get that x equals 40. All right, on the next example, we're solving for two variables here, but these two are the remote interior angles. They will equal this exterior angle. That does not look much like a 5, does it? Sorry about that. Okay, I'm gonna move my 3x over here. So I get 40 equals 2x plus or minus 10. And then I'm going to move my 10 over this way, so I get 50 equals 2x, and then divide by 2. So x equals 25. And then I should notice that these two angles are a linear pair. So when you, first of all, we need to know what this one angle is on the outside by plugging in 25 for x. So 5 times 25 is 125, minus 10 is 115. So when I do y plus 115, I should get 180 because they're a linear pair. So subtract 115 from 180 and I get 65. So y equals 65 degrees. All right, one more problem. So we have, first of all, I should know that this is an isosceles triangle because they're telling me right here that these base angles are equal to each other. So I can solve for y pretty easily because this should also be y. So y plus 152 should equal 180. And so I get 2y plus 152 equals 180. Subtract 152 and I get 28. And divide by 2 and I get 14. So y equals 14. All right, now that I know that, I know basically what you can think about is you've got this bigger triangle now to work with where this top angle is 62. This bottom angle should be x plus 14. And that's because we're using the angle addition postulate. So this angle is x plus 14. This angle over here, notice that you've got this little symbol right here and here, which is telling me that those are congruent to each other. So this is also going to be x plus 14. So I can do 62 plus x plus 14 plus x plus 14 equals 180. Combining like terms, I get 2x plus 90 equals 180, which means 2x equals 90. So divide by 2 and I get x equals 45. And I have solved for that. All right, I think that's all. Thanks, guys. I hope y'all have a good day. Bye.